welcome to the Comic Schtick Podcast. That's not how it goes. The podcast where comics are my shtick. My name is Blake T. Wild, or you may also know me as Smokey's Videos. And on this week, I'm going to be talking about a lot of MCU-related news, some other various comic-related stuff, and more importantly, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So let's get right into it after this plug for my comic book, Destructo Boy. Why am I so loud? Destructo Boy, the Era of Alpha Cardinal, Part 1 of 2. This is the first issue in my 5-issue miniseries of Destructo Boy. The first issue and second issue are two-parters. The third and fourth are also another two-parter. And the fifth comic is one longer story. Destructo Boy, the Era of Alpha Cardinal, Part 1 and 2, follows this little robot guy right here. His name's Destructo Boy. There he is again. He lives on that giant space station called Zephyrus Colonial Space Station, and he will stop at nothing to ensure its safety. There's a reason he's called Destructo Boy. As you can see, this is a completely made comic. There's nothing missing out of here. It's lettered. It's black and white, but I put some textures on there of screen tones. Everything is here. Here's the back. Oren Aronitis, the famed, threatening cyborg leader who you see in this comic book. You can buy this on my Etsy shop. That's etsy.com/shop/Blake T. Wild. Make sure you capitalize the BTNW. And the physical copy is $9.99. And if you buy a physical issue, then it'll come with a free head sketch of any character of your choosing. There's going to be a little option box when you make the purchase that lets you list or say what kind of character you want me to draw for you. And I will then autograph it right here and put the drawing right in here on this first page. So when you open it right up, oh my gosh, it's a drawing of my favorite character. You can be like that. Digital is $5. If you live overseas and the shipping is too much, or if you just want to buy it digitally, it'll be a PDF file, then here you go, it's $5, but physical copies are $9.99. Get them while they're going hot. I don't know if that makes sense, but get them while you can, because I don't know if I'm going to be reprinting these. I have the initial print run. I don't know if I'm going to be going back. I'm going to be just continuing these issues, and then maybe when they're gone, they're going to be gone. I haven't made that up yet. So get it while you can. Destructo Boy. It is a fun sci-fi romp that is getting raving reviews from everybody who's been reading it. So check that out. Etsy.com/shop/Blake T. Wild. And let's get right into things with episode 13, which it's pretty apropos based on the magical subject matter. 13 is my favorite number. But let's start this off with something a little down in tone, and that is just mentioning the passing of George Perez. I know I'm a couple weeks behind because last week's episode was pre-recorded because I was out of town, but that was just terrible. We knew it was all coming. We all knew it was coming. He announced through their social media pages that, he had a certain amount of time to live, but I doubt anybody was expecting it to be before then. I'm sure, everybody like me, myself, I was hoping that he would at least make it to, the estimated amount of time he had left. Unfortunately, he didn't. The end couple of last months of his life, he seemed like he was having a hell of a time, just based on all the stuff I saw him, going out and doing, and spending time with his family and everything. I'm glad he was able to do that and not, just wither away in horribly sterile hospital bed or something. I'm glad he got to experience, having fun and being with those he loved. But that's a real shame that George Perez is gone. Neil Adams as well, lost them both pretty close together. Two titans of the industry who revolutionized the art form and are still influences to this day. So, rest in peace, George Perez. Moving on to some comic book related speech. and that is Amazing Spider-Man #1 by Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. John Romita Jr. He's not actually a junior. That's just what everybody called him because he was John Romita's son. So, yeah, I saw a lot of people bitching, starting this off, a lot of people complaining about the cover. And if you have been following this podcast, you'll know that I've been reading through Ann Nocenti's Daredevil run, which is primarily John Romita Jr.'s artwork. I still love John Romita Jr.'s art. I love his style. I think it's great. I don't care that it's not realistic. Why does the primary argument for comic book art seemingly almost always boils down to, oh, that's not realistic? And what I'm talking about is what I saw a lot of people talking about. Is this. This is the cover. If you're listening to this, just, Google Amazing Spider-Man Romita Jr., maybe Zeb Wells or Romita Jr. cover or something. But it's Spider-Man leaping across a rooftop, and his leg is a little askew. Look how bow-legged he is. That's not realistic! Do you know how boring this would have been if it was just a dead, stationary, fully anatomically correct and referenced pose? Do you know how static that would be? How lifeless it would feel? That's a big issue that I see a lot, specifically with, like amateur artists. I'm not trying to make myself better or anything. I am also an amateur artist, but a big thing that I see a lot. Also, I just realized that I just noticed that his pinky isn't sticking out. He's just doing this. He's just pointing. He doesn't have his pinky sticking out while he's shooting the webs. That's weird. But something I notice a lot is, people say you should reference and understand how the body works. That makes sense. I have no objections to that. Life drawing classes, whatever. Understand the basic anatomy of a body before you begin to twist it up and fuck with it. At least know where an ear goes. I don't know. But a lot of stuff I see, especially from reference, it loses the life of the character. If you did this as a reference piece, it would be very, very crooked and very stationary and rocky, like a statue, statuesque like this. It would look like Mike Allred's art, but worse. Because Mike Allred is still able to get those kinks and those character moments into his art, even though it is very statuesque. That's one of the reasons that I like it so much, is that I don't think he does reference. I think he just has an amazing, immaculate understanding of the human form, but the way that he does it is that it doesn't feel like it's like referenced or it's too still or too, statuesque, for lack of better terms. It feels like it's a snapshot of a scene that's happening. And that's what comics are. But what I see a lot is people who just do it like one-to-one recreation and just plant over top of their drawing Spider-Man's costume. And it just doesn't look good. And that's why I love John Romita Jr.'s art, is that it looks ridiculous. Like, look at his faces. That's not what a person looks like, but it reads as a person. And don't even get me started on this story yet. I really love his tombstone design too, but that's not what I'm talking about yet. He's a cartoonist. It's cartooning. It's not life recreation. It's not life study art. So I don't get what people's big issue here is. Spider-Man's not a realistic character. Go look at the poses Todd McFarlane drew him in. Go look at the poses Steve Ditko drew him in. Look at that, and that's not realistic. So what if his leg... So what if he looks like a wishbone? What's the matter with that? What's the matter with having something stylized to the point where it exceeds the realistic boundaries of a human body? It's a drawing. It's a comic. he has spider powers. He's literally shooting a web off of a wrist-mounted brace that he made when he was a teenager. That was, a big issue of mine, was that I saw so many people just bitching about that and complaining about it. And I just never understood that point of view of, this comic art isn't good unless it looks realistic. I never understood that. And then a lot of the stuff that I see, or like a fair amount of time, I'll see people make that complaint, and then they'll point to people like Jim Lee as the realist of, comic art. Like, oh, it doesn't look like Jim Lee. He draws realistic. No, he doesn't. He does just as much cartoony shit as Todd McFarlane does. If anything, the most realistic comic book artist is Alex Ross, and he doesn't do it traditionally. He does it painted. But yeah, so that was just my rant about me finally bearing my issues with this cover. Less with the cover, more so of other people's issues with the cover. Speaking of the cover, listen to that. It's a thick book. Very glossy, which I hate. It's not a bad quality. It doesn't feel cheap. And the inside of the pages, while cheap and glossy, are not like Spider-Punk. Guess who they had more, guess who Marvel bet on for their comic book series by looking at this Spider-Man and the other Spider-Man comic that I covered a few weeks ago in Spider-Punk. That really pisses me off. So on to the story. So it opens up, it's Peter Parker, he's in a giant crater in York, wherever, something. And then cuts to 6 months later. We don't know what happened. We don't know what the fuck blew up. Peter's back. It's more or less returning to somewhat of a status quo. He's not with MJ. He's living in an apartment. There's this, I can't remember who his friend is, the black guy. I don't know if that's supposed to be, I don't know if he's an established character. I can't remember what his name was. Is it Robbie's son? Is it Robbie Robertson? What is his son's name? Is it Randy? I don't remember. I think it might be him, but I'm not too sure. I didn't bother looking it up, and I can never remember that character's name anyway. They're like roommates or something, and Peter's back in town finally, and there's like collections agents coming after him and shit. And I didn't care for it. I wasn't impressed with this return of John Romita Jr. I gotta flip through it because I sort of forgot. There's not a whole lot going on. There's a fun little action sequence where Spider-Man comes across this weapons deal with Tombstone's Lieutenant White Rabbit, and he fights some people, and that's about it. And then he fights this older character from like the early 2000s who came back. It's not really important. He fights a little more, and then he goes home and goes to sleep. And Tombstone is there, and he's having a gang war with Wilson Fisk's son, the Rose. Hey, look at that. We're already ignoring, what was it, Devil's Reign. So, yeah, the Rose is in town, and he and Tombstone are going at it, trying to, like, take over each other's territory and whatnot. And Tombstone finds Peter Parker, and he tells him to tell Spider-Man that there's a war coming, and it's Spider-Man's fault. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of him undoing the arms deal, or I think that's what it was, but who knows, because we're missing a whole 6 months. This reminds me of when DC, I don't remember, was it New 52, was it Rebirth, where they were like, there's a whole 3 years missing, anything could have happened. It reminds me of that, but executed even worse. Also, yeah, MJ is with another guy, and they have kids? I guess? I don't know what's happening here. Either they're his kids, because, you know, it's like he's a single father or something, but then they call her mommy. So clearly they're in a relationship. She's not wearing a ring, though, but, you know, John might have just forgotten to draw that part. and one of them looks almost exactly like her. She's a little redheaded girl. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. I don't care for it. I hope it's not going to be like, oh, this is some reality warping menace who fucked with Spider-Man's life after that giant explosion or whatever. I bought, or I've pre-ordered like at least the first 5 or 6 issues of this. So I'm stuck with it for a little bit, but I was not impressed. I didn't care for it. The art was fine. You can see some pages where, John Romita was just, rushing it just to get it done with, like some of the slower moving pages. Like he just, whipped this out real quick so he can work on, the more detail-oriented stuff of later pages. That's understandable. Especially when you're making a 20-something page book each month. But I don't care for the story. It's back to the same bullshit of he doesn't have any money, and Aunt May's there, and Aunt May's like, oh, Peter, you're lying to me about something, I just know it. What does she look like, by the way? What does Aunt May look like now? I can't remember if they returned her. Yeah, she kind of looks like Magneto. There she is. She's kind of returned to the deformed skeleton, thinly wrapped in flesh, but yeah, that's about it. I am very ambivalent to this series right off the bat. I don't really care for it so far. Hopefully it starts picking up in the 2nd or 3rd issue, but I don't know. So far I'm not impressed. I'm not too engaged with it. Moving on to the next comic that I read. The next new comic, I should say. And that was Hulk Grand Design number 2. Another comic I wasn't too impressed with. I mentioned it when I talked about the first issue. I cannot remember what episode that was. But that was last month sometime, I think. Or maybe March or whenever. I don't fucking remember when that... I don't remember when that came out. Was that May? I don't remember. Hulk Grand Design number 2. So yeah, I said it when I first talked about the first issue, and that was there's not much you can do when you're doing a chronological history of the Hulk, because every issue of the Hulk is the Hulk gets in trouble with the government, or there's another big monster that Hulk has to fight, or Hulk gets cured, but then he gets reversed back into the Hulk. It's just the same repeating storyline over and over and over and over again. And you really feel it in this retelling by Jim Rugg. I think that I enjoyed the art and the sort of meta commentary aspect of it in the first issue. Hulk Monster. This one is Hulk Grand Design Madness. They have a really cool like connecting front covers. That's the primary reason I bought them, is just because I liked how that looked. Excellent paper quality. I really enjoy the quality of the book itself. It all looks very fantastic. Of course, Jim Rugg, he's all about that. He's all about the creation process. So I'm sure he was there studying different paper qualities and types that Marvel offered or something to make sure that he got just exactly what he wanted. But I found myself not really reading it as much as I was just sort of skimming it and just looking at the pictures, because like I said, it's not much difference between the stories, so you can sort of get the gist of it just through his retelling of it. I do like that he covers Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. Those were cool, and he even lines it up to he skips some of like the more modern stuff. He doesn't do Immortal Hulk or anything like that. I can't remember what happens between World War Hulk and the ending, but the ending is Future Imperfect, which ends with the Maestro Hulk being sent back in time to the Gamma Bomb and then it exploding and killing him. So it's a nice Ouroboros of Hulk story. I do like that part of it. Maybe I'll try and reread them both back to back, just to see what that looks like. It would have been interesting if he, completely... It would have been cool if he dove more into the fact that it begins the same way it ends, with the Gamma Bomb explosion, maybe reusing panel or page layouts. just to really, connect it all back onto itself. But it was fine. I don't really have much other to say about that. So yeah, that's my review of Hulk Grand Design number 2. On to some Marvel Comics news. It recently broke over this past weekend that Conan the Barbarian the Barbarian is leaving Marvel Comics. Marvel is losing the license to the Conan property. Apparently it's going to happen in July. And the rights to Conan is being returned to their publisher, or not their publisher, to the copyright holder, who plans on publishing their own Conan comic book series. And that company is called Heroic Signatures. I've never heard of them before this, but it's apparently a company that specializes entirely in licensing out materials. So I'm sure that their publishing efforts, through their own ways, is going to work out beautifully. This definitely isn't giving me flashbacks to the 90s comic book boom. When there were companies like Topps making comics, and all the fucking shit Jim Shooter worked for, and companies from people who have no idea how to make comics making comics. That's what I got out of it. Other people seem to get out of it disappointment that Conan is leaving and that writers won't be able to work on it. I think I saw people saying, lamenting the fact that Jim Zub, I think that's his name, let me see. Yeah, I think... Jim Zub, people lamenting that he would not be able to continue his work. I think he's one of the... I remember when Marvel first got the license back, and there were, 3 or 4 writers that worked for them who were like, oh my god, I love Conan, I'm obsessed with Conan the Barbarian, I read the Robert E. Howard books, I read the comics, I watched the movies 800 times, and I'm pretty sure Jim Zub was one of them, because he also was writing one of the Conan series. I don't know how many there are, I don't know if he still is. But I saw people lamenting the fact that, he won't get to continue that because he was such a beloved property or something, I guess. I don't know. I didn't read it, obviously, if you couldn't tell. But, fuck, you can just make your own Barbarian. Just make your own indie comic Barbarian story. Guthrar the Violent or something. I don't know. Something along those lines. It worked for Image in the 90s. You think Rob's Youngblood was an original idea? No. Just make your own legally distinct enough version, and just write a graphic novel for it or something. Just, come up with the idea, make a little backstory for him. Don't have to include that if you don't want to. And then just write a fun little, barbarian action story. Publish it through Image or IDW or fucking Boom, or maybe not Boom. Maybe Dark Horse. Maybe Dark Horse should just start publishing various barbarian-related stories. But yeah, so Marvel's losing Conan license going back to Conan license holders making their own Conan. On to some different media. And that is Netflix SANDMAN teaser. Netflix released this weird trailer that's like, the geeks have won, or something like that. It's cool to be a geek. I didn't watch it. I put it on mute, and I skipped around until I got to the Sandman part, because there's other Netflix shows in there as well, Stranger Things was one of them. But yeah, from what I saw, it looked cool. Gwendolyn Christie's playing Lucifer. I don't know what any of the other actors are. The Morpheus's suit, the helmet and everything that looks like the space jockey from Alien, looks incredible. It's like a 1-to-1 recreation. It looks fantastic in the second long clip that they showed. But yeah, so that looks good. I talked about this recently, which was wondering what the fuck is going to happen to this show. Whether or not it would be popular enough to warrant a sequel or a sequel series, second series, or if Netflix is just going to can it like they did everything else. I don't know. I bet Warner Brothers and what's his name, David Zaslav, is that the new owner of it? I bet he is just kicking himself, and Warner Brothers are kicking themselves in the ass for not holding off and just doing this on HBO Max instead of Netflix. I bet they really regret that decision. So maybe, what if it just doesn't get picked up again? They wait until whatever rights they have, like, revert back to Warner Brothers, like, Marvel did with Daredevil, and then they just continue it on HBO Max. Who knows? We'll find out. Another trailer was The Boys Season 3. It feels like an eternity since I watched anything related to The Boys. I quickly remembered what Season 2 was about watching this trailer, but it looks fun. It's finally getting to that point in the comics. In the comics it starts off and they immediately have, like, the drug to take to get superhero powers so they can face off against superheroes. In the show, it's taken 3 seasons, which, the show is far better than the comics. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It looks fun. It's, I don't know how I feel. I don't know, because the drug, which I can't remember what it's called, gives them superhuman powers, but I don't know if it's going to be like, oh, it's sort of random what powers you get, or maybe it's like a certain, like this pill will give you flight and super strength. This pill will give you super strength and laser vision. Because we see Butcher taking the pill, and he has both of those things. He has the super power, or super strength, and laser vision coming out of his eyes. Whereas in the comics, it's just like, heightened durability and strength. So that'll be interesting how they do that. We saw Soldier Boy, that's his name. And it looks good. There's like almost a recreation of Captain America, U.S. agent from Falcon and Winter Soldier smashing the man's head off with a shield. So I can't wait to see what that looks like in full and not just happening off camera. And Homelander is there, and it opens up so fantastically. I can't remember what news channel it was. It was like, was it CNN, Fox, some big news conglomeration, where somebody went through news reports from like various cities around whatever country. I'm pretty sure it was American. And they found this topic that each news station was covering, and every one of them, it was scripted the exact same way. I think it was like, this is a threat to our democracy. I'm sure if you search on YouTube, like, threat to democracy news anchor or something like that, maybe it'll come up. But it's like, this older man is like, this is a threat to our democracy. And then it's this young woman saying it, and, it just keeps going. And it shows more and more news anchors saying the exact same thing. I'm pretty sure that's what this was based off of, because that was a pretty popular video a couple of years ago, and it feels very reminiscent of that. I did like that, though. And, of course, if you haven't seen it yet, the clip in the trailer is Homelander giving his speech about how he didn't realize, I guess, Stormfront was a bad person or whatever it is he says in the trailer, and that he's taken some time to find himself and show everybody who he really is. Something like that. Some fabricated bullshit by the PR department. So that looks fun. I can't wait. It comes out July, I think. So, looking forward to it. Moving on to some more DC news, and that is NAOMI has been canceled. NAOMI. That is a comic I've never read and a show I never watched. It's Brian Michael Bendis' character. It's this, like, young black girl who is an alien? I think she's, like, Thanagarian and Ran, maybe? Something like that. Comic Pop did a video about it. That's how I know about the character, because I don't read those. I don't read new comics that often, so I never heard of her before that. Go check out that video on Comic Pop, just the NAOMI, Brian Michael Bendis comic. It's a fun video. The story's pretty dumb. But yeah, so this seems like it's yet another casualty in the reformation of Warner Brothers and DC. Gotham Knights, however, has been, I guess, greenlit and picked up. Gotham Knights, I don't know if we know much about it. I doubt it's going to have Batman in it, at least too much. The only thing I really know about Gotham Knights is that actress Anna Lore, who, I don't think she's been in too much. She's not that big of a name. You might recognize her if you watch Doom Patrol. She plays like Poppin or whatever of Crazy Jane. Her personality, it's a character who's like a little English street urchin. She played that character in Doom Patrol. I feel like that's probably what most people would know her from. So she's been cast in that as Stephanie Brown, I think. I think that's who it is. That's the blonde one, right? Pretty sure she's been cast as Stephanie Brown in this show. It is going to be on the CW, though, so, you know, quality's going to vary, I imagine. I probably won't watch it. And, yeah, that's all the DC news I think we have. Moving on to Morbius news. Ooh, oh my. My Morbman is coming back. And this was some interesting tidbits. I don't know how true this was, but there was some hubbub a couple weeks ago about the line in Morbius in the credits scene when Vulture shows up and meets Morbius in the middle of the fucking desert. Vulture, upon, you know, realizing he's come to this parallel universe, he tells Morbius that he thinks it has something to do with Spider-Man. And there was a tweet that went viral that said, I've seen I just went and like rewatched Morbius, and that line isn't in the movie anymore. They like cut it out or something. I don't know how true that was, but it is present in the digital release of Morbius, so thank God. Can't wait for the sequel. Star Wars news. Star Wars Disney Plus news, I should mention. This was a Vanity Fair article. I believe it was just posted just today, at the time of recording, by Anthony Breznican, and photography by Annie Leibovitz, who is, I can't believe they got Annie Leibovitz to do that. She is an incredible photographer, one of the most famous American photographers probably in history. Yeah. So, let's see. It's if you haven't seen, it's a great looking cover. Obviously, it's Annie Leibovitz. She knows what the fuck she's doing. It's Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka, Pedro Pascal, Mandalorian, and Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. They're all like in a lineup, and it's just, you know, it's all about Disney Plus Star Wars stuff. So what I got from the article is that Obi-Wan, you know, it's coming next week. We're getting episode 1 and 2, and then it's, I don't know why I don't know if they ever announced why they had to delay it, because they were originally going to release it on the last Wednesday of May for like the anniversary of Star Wars, I think. Is that when it came out? May 24th, 1977? Then for some reason they delayed it until Friday. So now it's going to be the first week of Obi-Wan is going to be May 27th, Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 1 and 2. And then after that, each week, it's going to be a weekly show that comes out each Wednesday. So I'll be a week behind on that as well. But that is interesting because that means it's going to be running concurrently with, what's her name? Miss Marvel, which is coming out next month, I think. It's like early next month. It's June. It's like early June until sometime in early July. It's the whole month. So that means that we're going to be getting Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel just running concurrently, which is something we haven't seen happen before on Disney Plus yet. It's all been one at a time for the most part, at least the big name stuff. I don't know if you're aware, but they keep fucking advertising this stupid medieval game show that's like a bunch of kids, like it's like an obstacle course sort of thing where they like shoot arrows and shit. I don't know, but I keep seeing it. But you know, they're going to be doing that, which is interesting, and that makes me wonder if that's the reason that they cut back a week on the Obi-Wan show is something to do with the scheduling, because Cassian Andor is said to air in late summer, and probably sometime late August if I had to guess, because I'm going to just tie these two topics together. Disney UK possibly revealed or leaked that She-Hulk is going to be airing on August 16th, which I believe is a Tuesday. It's, there's going to be a month between the Marvel shows because Miss Marvel ends July 6th, and then She-Hulk will begin August 16th or 17th. And the little write-up they had was, a new comedy series sees Bruce Banner help his cousin Jennifer Walters when she needs an emergency blood transfusion. And guess what? She receives his powers too. Tatiana Maslany will play Jennifer, who is a lawyer specializing in superhuman-oriented legal cases. Mark Ruffalo is back as the Hulk alongside Tim Roth, who plays the Abomination. I am so excited we get to see more Abomination, especially after his redesign in Shang-Chi. I liked his design in the first Hulk film. I still really like The Incredible Hulk as a film. But I'm glad to get him back. Tim Roth is great. But yeah, so seemingly what's going to be happening is Obi-Wan's going to start, and then Miss Marvel will begin and go until July. And then there's seemingly going to be a lull in the month of July, and then Andor will begin in late summer. That's all we know. And She-Hulk will also begin. Probably, if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's going to be She-Hulk and then Andor. Like, She-Hulk begins, August 16th, 17th, and then Andor will probably be like the second or last week of August. So those will also be running concurrently with one another. Back to the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff, and that is we got Mando, which will apparently be airing late 2022 or early 2023, and Ahsoka, which will be airing sometime in 2023. We know they began production on Ahsoka. I don't know about Mando or what's happening with that season. I'm sure they already are working on it, but yeah. And so that takes care of 2 topics, 1 stone. Moving on, I'm very late on this one, and that is Moon Knight Episode 6. So, I'll just whip this out real quick. Moon Knight Episode 6, it's, I've said it each time I've talked about the show. I love it. It's a great show. I really dig what they did with it. I wish that it was as weird as it was in, like, the last 2 or 3 episodes. Hopefully Season 2, assuming that is a thing, brings the weirdness just to the forefront from the get-go. My girlfriend pointed out something very clever when I asked, why can Khonshu just teleport and, like, none of the other gods can? And that is because he's not necessarily teleporting, he's phasing around because the moon has phases. Also, we just had a blood moon. That's cool. Oh man. When I first watched this episode, there's the scene where they're fighting in, like, the city square, and there's this little, like, Middle Eastern girl, who's there. Or Egyptian girl, I don't know what she is. I don't know. And she's there, and when I first watched it, I thought it was Kamala Khan, because I'm racist. But I was like, oh my gosh, is that Kamala Khan? Is that the actor who plays her? Is that the young girl? I can't remember her name. I thought that was her. I was like, what is she doing here? Is she on vacation to visit family in Egypt? She's not Egyptian. But then I rewound it a little bit, and, I looked at an actual picture of the actor who plays her, and I was like, oh, no, that is definitely not her. I don't know. That would have been cool to see her in this show. Just, like, a little quick wink setup to the next show. But no, that was not her at all. Jake is a fucking maniac. And oh my god, he is intense. Holy shit. Oh my god, just the transformations between Jake. I'm so glad they finally showed Jake Lockley. I love that he is secretly working for Khonshu. Like, Khonshu is just like, fuck, when I really need to get shit done, I'll just get Jake, okay? Because, like, I don't need to deal with Mark's hoity-toity bullshit or Steven being a dumbass. So just give me Jake. The after-credits scene is great. It's where he shows up. I was freaking out when that happened. At first, I thought that the Sienkiewicz Psychiatric Hospital was the same hospital as from the, I didn't think it was real at first, is what I'm saying. I thought it was, like, where the personalities all go when, like, they're waiting around or they aren't in control, but that's clearly not the case. It was an actual psychiatric ward that Jake just murdered orderlies in before stealing away not Kevin Bacon's character. Oh, it was so fucking good. I was so excited when I realized what was happening. And then, oh my gosh, you see the white limousine from the Warren Ellis Moon Knight run, and it was just so cool. Oh god, I need a season 2 of this. Please, Marvel. Please, Oscar Isaac. Please come back for it. I need you. Help me, Oscar Isaac. You're my only hope. The only thing I didn't like about it was the whole climax of the fight, and they're like, "No, Mark, you can't kill him. You're better than that." Oh god, it just made me think of Deadpool. That's all I can think of now whenever I see that happen in a story. It's like, "No, don't kill Wade. You are better than this," and then boom, and then brain matter just goes over Colossus's face. I just hate that trope so much because we already know Mark kills people. We already seen him brutalize people. Harrow's not gonna stop. He's a maniac. He's a monster. Mark should have killed him, but Khonshu got Jake to handle it. So that was the only thing I did not like about that show. So, as it stands, my current Marvel, MCU, Disney Plus show ranking is number 1 is Hawkeye. I really love that show. Number 2, Moon Knight. Number 3, WandaVision. Number 4, Loki. And number 5, Falcon and Winter Soldier, followed at the end by What If Season 1. What If, it wasn't a terrible show. It just, it was fine. It was an alright show. It was perfectly medium. Some episodes were good, some episodes were better than others. Some episodes were fine. But yeah, finally, speaking of What If, let's get right into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm already smiling like an idiot because I loved this movie. This is my favorite MCU film. I decided that as soon as the credits started playing. I loved everything about it. I loved the visuals. Oh my god, it has such a great style to it. It's a really great and fun story. I had a hell of a time with it. I had such a great time that I've seen it twice. I really want to go back and see it again in 3D. Just because I imagine that would be great. That's what I did with the first Doctor Strange, because I really love that movie too. I really dig Doctor Strange as a character, even though I haven't read many of his comics. I love that first movie so much that I saw it twice in theaters. The first time was fine and, everything. And the second time I got high and went and watched it in 3D, which I rewatched Doctor Strange this past weekend just because I didn't have much, it was a slow day, I didn't have much to do, so I just put on Doctor Strange because I've been thinking about it a lot. And there's not a whole lot of, interesting visuals in that film, aside from the crazy trip that he goes on when he gets to Kamar-Taj and when he goes to Dormammu's Dark Dimension. It sounds like a pizza joint inside of a nightclub or something. So, it wasn't as great as it could have been, when you're high. But this one, oh my god, I just imagine that this one's going to be fucking incredible, stoned off your ass. It was just, everything about this film I loved. I loved how horrifically dark it was. I'm going to be spoiling this, by the way. I'm not going to do non-spoiler and spoiler talk. This is just full-on spoilers. Movie's been out for 2 weeks now. I loved everything. Sam Raimi is just incredible. I love the sweeping camera angles of it. I loved how dark they got. There's a few times I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, this is a dark movie. There's the fucking scene where, after Wanda's assault on Kamar-Taj, she's walking past, and the camera is slowly panning past charred corpses, and there's bodies just strewn with arrows. There's that guy crawling on the ground who's just screaming and writhing in pain as Wanda wipes him from existence. There's the wizard woman who sacrifices herself to destroy the Darkhold, and oh my god, that is gonna haunt some children. The scene where she looks straight at the cameras and she just turns to stone and crumbles. Like, holy shit. I saw Spider-Man in theaters when I was a child. I don't know, how old would I have been? Let me see, let me do the math. I was maybe 4-ish, 5, I don't know. Maybe 3 to 4 to 5. 3 to 5. When I saw the first Spider-Man in theaters. And I only got to the part where Green Goblin is in the house. It's where Green Goblin sets the building on fire to bring out Spider-Man, and they do the quick reveal, and it's Goblin and like the fucking the hood and shit. That scared me so much I had to leave. I could not handle it because, you know, later I was like, why was I so scared about that movie? And then as I got older, I learned that Sam Raimi, the director, mostly did horror films, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the second movie never scared me as much. That first one, it horrified me. Probably because Willem Dafoe looks like a goblin. But I can easily see some children having the exact same experience I did in Spider-Man 20 years ago with this movie now. And I love it so much. I loved how much more magic there was in this. I saw so many people complaining about the magic fight, or not the every fight in this movie is a magic fight. The music fight, that is just so good. I loved it so much. Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange battling it out with music notes and music. That is such an inventive and just creative way to show just how, like, the weird intricities, I don't know if that's correct, of the magic. It's just such a different thing. It's not, they're not doing a Harry Potter again where it's bam and boom. It's, these motherfuckers are shouting goddamn music notes at each other, and the score is represented in there. That's such incredible work. I want to kiss on the lips whoever's idea that was. You heard it here. If you're watching this, hey, call me. Good job, Danny Elfman, for getting that to just be perfect. I love when it's the music magic is just a big ball, and like they're trying to like push it back on one another, and Doctor Strange pushes it off screen, and the camera holds on him, and like the music starts lowering, and then it starts climbing back to a climax as it re-enters the frame. Everything about that fight was just incredible. It's so fantastic. It's gory, it's scary. The Evil Dead references were great. Right off the bat, there's the wound that Defender Strange gets. Defender Strange is the one wearing red and black with the ponytail who dies and becomes a zombie. He gets, I think it's in his leg, he gets stabbed by the weird ribbon monster who I thought was going to be Wanda, but I'll try to get back to that part. When the ribbon thingy goes through Doctor Strange's leg, the wound quickly, like, black veins, like, grow out of it like roots, and that is an almost exact recreation of the wound that, you know, Ash receives in Evil Dead. It's animated the same way. It's very, like, choppy and, like, jagged in how it moves, because in the original Evil Dead, it was a stop-motion effect. They just painted the wound onto, you know, whatever, like, his hand or wherever it was, and it, like, you know, they just made it, you know, in motion in the film, and it looks great. It was so fantastic. A lot of the camera movements are very Evil Dead. There's the scene where they're in Carmitage, and Sam Raimi does his famous whip zoom on the doors, as I think, is it Wanda's like locking them in or something like that? Something along those lines, and like everybody's like whoosh, whoosh, like looking around, they're freaking out. So there's that. There's one of my favorite touches of Sam Raimi is his like demon cam, where it's, the first person sort of like seems like it's on a chicken head or something. It's bobbing around so much. When Wanda is taking over herself, it's when she's like hiding behind the stairs and the camera moves and it's like it's looking at her and then it whips back and hides. I love that effect so much. I saw the Evil Dead films when I was in high school, and before that, I was never into horror films. I was too scared of them. I'd have paranoid delusions or something that would like really fuck with me when I was a kid, about like just freaking out, like, oh my god, the end of the world is coming. That's a topic for another time. But Sam Raimi's Evil Dead series was really my stepping stone into loving horror, and it just captured my imagination and captured my attention and will forever be, something that I think of and is inside of me. Like a little gross, tiny version of me that I ate. It's an Army of Dead reference. But just seeing all this Sam Raimi stuff really brought me back to that point of, just the splendor of watching Evil Dead films for the first time, especially the first and second. The only thing I was disappointed by in terms of Sam Raimi's directing was that there were no montages of characters that employed the whip zoom, or the crash zoom, if you will. I'm talking about, if you've seen Evil Dead, like Evil Dead 2, when Ash gets his hand cut off, he goes to the shed, and there's the montage of him, making the chainsaw. And the crash zoom, it's like, it's him grabbing something, and then whoosh, it zooms in, and then he grabs something else, and whoosh. Stuff like that. It's Sam Raimi's signature style. You'll see it in the Spider-Man movies a lot. He did it there too. Didn't do it here for some reason. So that was disappointing. I was really looking forward to see what sort of montage they would have happen, but it never came. Let's see. What should I talk about next? I have a whole long list here. I guess I'll talk about America Chavez. America Chavez is a character I'm relatively unfamiliar with in regards to the comics. I've never read any of her series personally. I think she's had multiple, if I understand it correctly, based on what I saw and have seen for like the past couple months of what people have been saying in regards to the comic version. It's that it seems like the writers and creators didn't really have a set idea of what her character should be. So it sort of changes between who's writing it and who's the creator working on it. My experiences with America are only when she appears in other books. I can't remember what I've read her in. I think it might... Was she in West Coast Avengers? Is that what it was? I cannot remember. I don't remember. It's, this is what happens when you just don't read a whole lot of like new recent monthly comics. It's just I don't know the names of anything. But like from what little I'll admit I have read very little of her character, so I don't know too much about it. But what little I have read of America Chavez, I never liked her as a character. She came off to me whenever I would see her as like, almost rude, standoffish, very cocky, and sort of just unlikable. Whereas Xochitl Gomez, who plays her in the film, is wonderful. I really loved her rendition of America Chavez. She's a great actor. She brings such a fantastic energy to the character that I really enjoyed. Much more enjoyable than the comic version of America Chavez. I really loved her in this film. I hope to see her again in the future. Was there a comic involving Doctor Strange where he has an apprentice who's a young girl? Is there one? I don't know if I'm thinking of it correctly, but I feel like there might have been. I don't know. But I feel like in Doctor Strange 3, you could easily just replace whoever that character is, assuming it exists, with America. She's training at Carmitage. She could get some, more knowledge, and she goes and just hangs out with Doctor Strange and Wong in the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York. It's like 2 men and a baby, but with 2 grown men and a teenage girl. I don't know. I just really, I really liked her in the film. She brought, like I said, a great energy. She brought a very emotional energy to it. The backstory, I don't know how closely related America's backstory actually is in comparison to the film version, but I thought that was a very sad, it's obviously it's sad. She lost her mother's. But I really enjoyed it. I love the growth between them. That's why I really want to see her come back, especially alongside Doctor Strange, is they have such a growing sense of maybe not father-daughter. There's a little bit of that happening in this film because, when she sees him after they escape the Illuminati, the first thing she does is hug him. And he hugs her and they make sure they're okay. And she realizes that he cares about it. It's like this Steven is her stepdad and Defender Strange is her shitty dad who left. I really enjoyed their chemistry. I really hope she comes back and they can interact some more. She'll probably be in the Young Avengers show or movie whenever they do that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to her return. I love that. I love that the movie ends with America getting a heartfelt speech from a zombie that is decaying in front of her. That is so great. That is just such an amazing turn on everything. Is that, normally, the young character who is doesn't believe in themselves, they'll get a mentor character to give them a nice speech, possibly before they die, or a big speech when they're wounded or something, or just a speech at all to reinvigorate them with a belief in themselves, which is what happens, except in this movie it's with a zombie. And that's just that's a great description of this movie, is that it has all the stuff that you know and recognize, but it just puts it in such an absurd and outrageous setting that it just works so well, and I love it so much. Speaking of the Illuminati, holy fuck. Oh my god, they're all there. There is Mordo, who I never realized that he doesn't say his first name in the first movie, which is why Steven laughs at it. Who else? Captain Carter, who was cool to see Haley Atwell be back. She looks great as Captain Carter. Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel, Photon. I didn't realize until the second time I watched it that the reason her suit is black and white is because in the comics, Photon's suit is black and white. It doesn't really work with the MCU Captain Marvel suit as well as it does, with just the plain comic, or with the one, the design they used from the WandaVision show, which was just her plain clothes, but whatever. Who else was there? Black Bolt. Fucking Black Bolt. I was the only person in my theater that got excited when they saw Black Bolt. Oh my god, I couldn't believe it. His suit looks incredible. That is such an incredibly designed suit. Who am I missing? Black Bolt. Professor X and Reed Richards. Holy shit! I could not believe that they actually did it. I heard, when Christina's talking to Steven and when they're in the cubes, she's like, "Oh yeah, I work for the Baxter Foundation." I was like, "Holy shit!" And I leaned over and I whispered in my girlfriend's ear, and "The Baxter Foundation is Fantastic Four! Oh my god!" I was not expecting for Reed Richards to actually be on the panel of the Illuminati. But my issue is that I don't like John Krasinski that much. He was fine as Jim in The Office, but I don't know. I just don't like him that much as an actor. It's not in the same vein as The Rock necessarily, because that's also another actor I don't like. I don't know. I feel like he mostly, almost always plays sort of himself in the role, sort of like Ryan Reynolds-ish. Except Ryan Reynolds, I feel like, is the only one who really works in that. I didn't care for him. I am one of those people who doesn't want him to be Reed Richards in the MCU. And I feel like that's also primarily just because of all the bullshit fan casting that I saw, for the past year and a half or however long it's been of people like, Emily Blunt and John Krasinski should play Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm. Oh my gosh, look at this Photoshop I made. So I just got annoyed with that, and I don't think he works as Mr. Fantastic. We saw very little of him, so I don't know. But what I did see is that, he comes off as good Mr. Fantastic. He is cocky without being expressively outwardly so, if that makes sense. But it's also his build. I feel like he's too muscular to play Reed. Another film I rewatched this weekend was the 2005 Fantastic Four film, which I have not seen in at least a decade or longer. That's not true. That's exactly true. I have not seen that movie in the past 10 years. And it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. But I think that Ian Grufford, I think that's how Ian Grufford? I can't remember how you spell it. He was a fantastic Reed Richards. He looks like Reed Richards. And even the stretching effects of that movie, they hold up pretty well. I didn't care for the stretching effects in this one. I didn't think they looked too good. And that's because another thing my girlfriend pointed out was that his build just seemed off. Like, he's too muscular and triangular to have that elasticity and have it work well. It's like, I don't know if he, because every goddamn hero now has to be fucking jacked and rip and take an HGH, which is one thing that I enjoyed about Stephen Strange. When he wakes up from the nightmare of the opening, he's not jacked, he's not ripped, he's in shape, but he doesn't look like fucking Star-Lord or Chris Hemsworth or whoever. So, if they could just, that same body type is who I feel, Reed Richards should be, and John Krasinski isn't that. He's too ripped from Jack Reacher. The other thing I didn't like about the Illuminati is Professor X. Hover chair, I should say. Professor X's hover chair. I never watched the X-Men animated series. I tried watching it when it came on Disney Plus. I didn't get very far, just because I didn't enjoy it too much. I didn't get invested. So I don't have that same emotional value that a lot of people have in regards to it. I've never liked it. I've never liked that hover chair design. It's just a giant yellow block of soap that he rides around in that has some pretty buttons on. It's too big. It's too blocky. It looks ridiculous when he's on Titan standing with everybody else in these ruins after they've defeated Thanos, and he's just there in this big-ass bumper car of a chair. Oh, man. It's like, here's a bottle of Tums that I have, which I feel suitably resembles the shape of his chair. And, I'm going to use this. Here's an Adam West Batman toy. Imagine this is Thanos, and this is Professor X. And look how ridiculous this looks. Just imagine the fight. Because that's all I could think of when I saw that scene and afterward, is imagining what that fight looked like on Titan between the Illuminatis, and specifically with Professor X being there. Can he fly the chair higher if he needs to? It seems like it'd be so slow moving, and just it's ridiculously large. It looks so silly. And that's to an extent the point, is that it's a perfect adaptation of it. Although I feel like the cartoon version was smaller. This one, he looked like he was in a pram or something. It's such a weird design. I could not just get that imagery of just this giant floating bumper car attacking Thanos. It's just fun. It's fun, dumb stuff, and I just don't care for it. I never have. I've always preferred a wheelchair or a hover chair like he has in Days of Future Past, another movie I watched this weekend. I was on a roll with the Illuminati cast members. Was not planning to watch Inhumans, though. I completely forgot about this. In the opening and, like, in the futuristic scenes of Days of Future Past, the best X-Men movie, aside from X2, he does have a hover chair, but it's like this cool, sleek, futuristic, almost looks like a bar stool with arms and, and a footrest, hover chair that he rides around on. And I feel like that works a lot better. That or the wheelchair is what I've always preferred. Because, I know it takes place in this comic book universe and, like, the cartoon universe, but just that big hover chair just seems so out there and such an odd concept that it kind of, like, does away with the whole world outside your window that Marvel has. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Professor X. It was cool seeing him back. That scene where Wanda snaps his neck is horrifying. It's also something I realized when I was writing up my notes, is that this is a reality that Doctor Strange did not see during Infinity War. So that's a, cool little aside. And since the film came out, there has been, like, rumors that Balder the Brave was going to be on the Illuminati, but the actor, who was apparently going to be Daniel Craig, could not make it, so they got John Krasinski. Initially, I'm pretty sure everybody thought Bruce Campbell was going to be Balder the Brave, especially after he came out and said, like, he's not even sure if his part is still in the movie. People were like, oh, that must mean that during the reshoots, they did the Pizza Papa stuff as a reshoot and got him off of the Illuminati, and that he was going to be Balder, because he looks exactly like Balder the Brave. If you're unaware of Balder the Brave, I'm sure you are, because he's not a popular character. I love him. Norse mythology, Balder, he is, his mother makes him immune to everything, but she forgets one tiny thing, and that is what is it? It's on the tip of my tongue. What is that word? Mistletoe. He's immune to everything but mistletoe. So Loki, playing a trick, convinces Balder's blind brother Hod to shoot an arrow at him, because, like, once everybody discovers that Balder is immune to stuff, they're just chucking weapons at him and just, like, getting drunk and fucking throwing stuff at him. And so Hod is like, oh man, I'm blind, I don't get to have fun. And Loki's like, hey, I got a bow and arrow if you want to, rejoice and celebrate and join their little reindeer games. Hod, being blind, does not realize that it is a mistletoe arrow, and he shoots and kills his brother, who then goes to hell. And he's trapped there basically forever. In the comics, he goes to hell after he dies, and he comes back, and eventually he becomes, like, ruler, and I don't think it's Hela that he marries. It's not Hela, I can't remember her name, but he falls in love with this, like, demon queen woman. And so he comes back, but he comes back after he's aged, and he's essentially like a has-been, like, famous guy. Like, at one point in time, Balder was like the greatest of all Asgardians. He was the golden child of Odin. He was handsome and beautiful, and everybody wanted him. Men wanted to be him, women wanted to be with him. Stuff like that. But when he comes back, he's like pudgy, and he has long white hair, and he's middle-aged, and he's like, he's let himself go and stuff. So he has to go on this journey to redeem himself. And, Bruce Campbell basically looks like that. But where I'm going with this is that I am very glad that Balder the Brave was not in this movie, because I love him. And I love him as a character. He's really funny. He has a little mini-series by Walt Simonson. And I don't know if I could stomach watching my poor Balder boy be murdered in this movie. Apparently the leak, or the rumor rather, is that Wanda talks him into killing himself. So, oh my god, imagine how bad that would have been. Oh, terrible and horrifying. More stuff about the Illuminati verse, Earth 838. That I know is causing issues with the fans. That Earth 838 has designated the mainstream MCU as 616. They did it in Far From Home, that Mysterio's team somehow coincidentally got correct that 1, there's a multiverse, and 2, there's at least one multiverse out there where they name them as 616. Obviously fans of the comics will know that Earth 616 is the mainstream comic universe. And I don't know how knowledgeable people are, or how aware people are, rather. The MCU has been designated as Earth 199,999. 19,999. That's the MCU Earth. And so, you know, I was also kind of disappointed when they used Earth 616, just because I also, you know, I don't know, just keep it to the MCU, or to keep it to the comic mainstream, I guess. But, you know, they want to do their own little thing in the movies and make that show that the movies are the mainstream universe, and everything else is ancillary and supplementary and not happening in the main universe. But at the same time, you know, it's not that big of a deal, because it's not Marvel officially naming it that. It's this group of people from this one specific universe who has decided to name that universe 616, which makes me wonder why they named themselves 838. You'd think they just start off with themselves as one, but I guess not. So, you know, I forgave it for that. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. People are still going to know what you mean if you say 616. I feel like the general audience of moviegoers aren't going to be that confused. They aren't going to be like, Earth 616, when this person talked about Earth 616, they talked about Civil War and Spider-Man unmasked, but that doesn't happen in the movie. That's not going to happen. Yeah, and that Earth 838 is such a weird world in regards to the heroes they have, and what the fuck was that? And what the fuck is going on in that universe? It's like, it's solar punk, and everybody wears black, like almost Amish attire, and they all have umbrellas, maybe because they can control the weather. I wouldn't put it past Reed Richards to do so. I really like the design of like the plants in the city and like that winding sidewalk. Actually, I was out of town. I was in Phoenix, and I went to a shopping center that had a design almost exactly like that. This like big fancy mall. And I was like, holy shit, we're in that alternate universe. I hope they have some pizza balls here. Goddamn, I need some pizza balls, by the way. I need to look up how to make those, because those look delicious. Yeah, it's just such a weird universe to imagine what is happening there, because it's, at one time there is this weird solar punk futuristic environment where the people dress like I mentioned, and at the same time there's the Fantastic Four. There's the Inhumans, there's the Avengers, and there's seemingly the X-Men. They're all just doing these super heroic things in this weird looking world where fashion is just odd. And like there's memory machines or whatever, like the Hugh Jackman movie, and there's pizza balls, and Bruce Campbell's there. I loved Bruce Campbell in this film. That's another thing I saw a lot of complaints about, was the credit scene. They were like, oh, this is the worst credit scene since Captain America told me patience is a virtue. I loved it. I loved it so much. I realized halfway through the film that Pizza Papa, or maybe not halfway, but like, you know, after he appeared and like once they were doing the Illuminati stuff, it clicked with me that the Pizza Papa was gonna be the post-credits scene. So I was very happy when I saw that my theory came true, my hypothesis. It's I was laughing so hard. I was the only one laughing when he was doing his possessed hand routine and like acting. It was so good. I just love Bruce Campbell so much. Just when he looks at the camera and just says, it's over. That's so good. They look at the camera a lot in this movie. Well, by a lot I mean twice, which is more than most movies. It was that scene, and then when Wanda is possessing other Wanda, and she does that whole hallucination thing, and she takes her over, and then she looks directly at the camera before turning away. Oh, that was so cool. Let's see. What else do I have here? Wanda. Speaking of Wanda, her accent, what's going on there? Sometimes she has the Sokovian accent, sometimes she doesn't. I was trying to see if maybe she had it when she was the witch, or maybe, you know, when she's normal Wanda she has it, and when she's fake magical Wanda she doesn't, but it doesn't seem that consistent. Maybe that has something to do with reshoots, I don't know. Also, her kids, how do the other Wanda's kids work? I don't understand. I guess she just made them magically as well. Elizabeth Olsen says that she thinks that the other universe, the Illuminati 838 universe, Wanda is divorced from Vision, and that's why she doesn't have a wedding ring or anything. But I don't think normal Wanda has a wedding ring either. Something I was disappointed about, which I mentioned earlier and I said I would get back to, is that before the film came out, there were rumors that as the film progressed, Wanda was going to be possessed more, and, you know, the holding of the Darkhold over her was going to affect her appearance until she would be like a decaying monster, which is why I thought the Ribbon Monster was her, like in some form, which I guess it is in a way, but no. So I was disappointed. Like, you know, like by the end of the movie, when she sees her kids, she would have looked like the creepy Scarlet Witch that's in the astral plane that snaps Professor X's neck. Like, she would have looked like that, which I would have loved to have seen, but they didn't do that, and I was pretty disappointed that that wasn't a thing that was happening. I guess, I don't know, assuming that was real at all and they ever had plans to do that, I don't know, maybe they didn't want it. They didn't want, like, 2 zombie characters to be happening in the same movie, because then they would have had Zombie Strange as well. Let's see. In regards to, like, some leaks and rumors that were coming out, there in August 2021, there was a post on, I can't remember which subreddit it was about the MCU, that, you know, lists a couple things. One is that the third eye and Clea were always meant to be the credits and mid-credits scenes. So everybody, you know, saying that, oh, they just reshot that scene, I didn't have a problem with either of those either. That was always a thing that was going to happen. If you've seen Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, it's basically that. Evil Dead 2 ends with Ash screaming in pain and horror as he's tormented by these demons. And then, you know, he gets away and, like, he thinks he's safe. And then the second film, it starts up and, you know, he's back at it again. He's going through the motions of, you know, he runs back in the cabin and everything. He thinks he's fine, blah, 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 whatever else happens. And that's basically this. You know, he gets his third eye. He's screaming in pain because a third eye just popped out of his forehead. And he doesn't know what's happening. And then it cuts. And then it's some time later, and we've seen him master dark magic, such as the Darkhold. He has those giant snakes that come out of his hands that seem very reminiscent of the evil Doctor Strange in What If. Especially the close-up scene that's like, it's almost blink and you miss it with how short it is, where it's Steven, he's like, ah! And, like, fangs are coming out of his fucking mouth and shit, and he, like, looks evil and monstrous. So, you know, clearly he's able to handle this dark magic. So I didn't see that as an issue. He got a hold of it. Another thing is that allegedly the film was going to open up with Carl Mordo from 616. You know, if you remember from the first film, he makes a vow that wizards and, you know, sorcerers are a problem with the world. And so he vows to kill them all. Doctor Strange alludes to it when he says that Mordo has dedicated his life to trying to kill him. So anyway, the film was apparently supposed to open up with our version of Mordo hunting down Wanda in the middle of a forest, which in that same post from August of last year described it as, like, burnt. So I can only assume that it was going to take place on, like, that abandoned apple orchard place that the sky is just red for some reason. Like, where is that on Earth? Why does it look like that? So yeah, he would hunt her down there. They would have a fight, and Wanda would kill him by decapitation. And that's how the film was apparently supposed to open. I can only assume that they didn't do that because they have future plans for Mordo to appear. But imagine that. Just, he makes these vows at the end of the first movie to have his vengeance or whatever, and then immediately he's killed in the second one. Let's see, what else is there that I haven't talked about from my little list here? There's the theme of happiness. The theme of happiness that comes up repeatedly over the film, and I was trying to figure out what that meant, what that was for, what that was trying to be. Steven is told to stop holding the knife, which he does. That's why he, you know, every other Steven seeming, they can't handle not being in control. He talks about this with other Christine when he's like, I just couldn't handle it. I don't, I need it. I need to be in that controlling space. That's why, it didn't work out between us. But, he grows as a person throughout this film and throughout the past films that he's appeared in. Do you think Doctor Strange from the first Doctor Strange movie would have sacrificed his life like he did in Infinity War? Probably not. I mean, he might have, but because he did, I guess. But who knows? But yeah, all these movies, Steven has been growing. In No Way Home, we see him, go from like a cranky man who's like depressed or whatever to becoming more open. And he learns to appreciate Peter Parker, and he even calls him like Peter at the end of the film. Like he's on good terms with him. But in this, we see him go from just masquerading that he is happy to questioning what happiness actually is, and eventually he just comes to the realization, I guess, that to an extent existence is happiness. He sees what is happening to Wanda. She wants to be happy with her family, but she can't be. He wants to be happy with Christine, but he can't be. And eventually he realizes that the reason that he doesn't have that happiness is because of himself. The reason that Wanda can't be happy is because of herself. She is delving into dark magic. She's scaring her own children, which I love when he points out, Steven, he's like, okay, Wanda, you want to go to another universe and get your kids. What's going to happen? What happens to that version of you? What are you going to do to her? And Wanda gets so fucking ticked off. You can see it happen. You can see like the gears in her head moving as like, the wind up of her anger begins, as she's just like, don't you even fucking like propose that. Like, how dare you question me at all? Like, stop trying to bring logic into this, because, she's clearly not thinking logically, and she's getting pissed off that he's clearly pointing out the flaws in her plan, and she realizes that and lashes out at him. But, Strange, unlike her, realizes that he's the issue here. He's the problem. Which, at the end of the film, he doesn't kill America. When Wong is like, you need to absorb her power, she's not strong enough to handle it, he hands over the knife to her, essentially, which is what Christine says. And, I don't know, I'm sure you can write a big video essay about this. It'd be easier if the film was on home release to, watch it over and over again, get some, character development moments here and there, and really analyze it. But yeah, it was an interesting, very interesting theme for this kind of movie. What else is there? Clea, Clea made her appearance. Charlize Theron plays her. She looks great. Can't wait to see what she looks like in Doctor Strange 3, because I doubt it's going to be the same. Another thing about Doctor Strange 3 is I hope that they have even more magical stuff happening. Because Doctor Strange 1, it's pretty limited on the magic. This one goes pretty crazy with it. And I hope Doctor Strange 3 just keeps pushing it. I think all I have left is to talk about the biggest reveal, and that is incursions. Incursions are... if you're unaware, during the 2015 Marvel event, which is one that I absolutely love, Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman, incursions are what was happening in the Marvel Universe at the time, where parallel Earths were, like, parallel universes were merging with one another and destroying each other and collapsing. So, like, Earth 2584, way over here, and Earth 211 just crash together and everybody dies, and that universe is obliterated forever. The Illuminati in the comics realizes this, and they begin using the Infinity Gauntlet to, if I remember correctly, this is the part of the story that I can't really remember what happens in, like, the prelude to it, But if I remember correctly, they used the Infinity Gauntlet somehow to, course correct other Earths into either crashing into one another instead of the main universe, or, just protecting themselves. Or I think what it might have been is that it's like a preemptive strike on other universes. Like the Illuminati would use the gauntlet to destroy another universe before it can reach them. Something along those lines. Captain America figures it out and he's disgusted by it and he tries to stop him, but they mind wipe him or something. And Namor just does it for him anyway. So that's what's happening. In the MCU, seemingly it's a bit different, as it has to do with multiversal travel, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So, the incursions, it culminates all in the Secret Wars event, which is where the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610, and the main universe, Earth 616, are converging. For some reason, all the heroes on each Earth decide to fight each other. And, the realities are destroying each other as they're fighting. And because why wouldn't you? Clearly, that other Earth that's crashing into our Earth is the bad guy. So that happens, and they are just attacking one another. And meanwhile, there are heroes and villains from each Earth. I think the Maker is on the Ultimate Universe, and Reed Richards is on the mainstream universe. They each make these things called arcs, which are ships that will be able to withstand the reality tearing or whatever. And so they all, a certain amount of heroes and characters and villains climb aboard these ships. Thanos from the Ultimate Universe is one of them, the Maker. In the main universe, it's Spider-Man and Miles and Reed. All right, Miles is on the other one, sorry. But yeah, they get connected, and once the worlds are destroyed, the only people who were able to stop it were, well, not stop it still happened, but as this was all going on, Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange, and a guy called the Molecule Man team up to collect as many parallel realities as they can and form them together in one planet called Battle World. Which is what they called it in the original 1984 Secret Wars series that was used to sell toys. Battle World was then ruled by God Emperor Doom, who wore all white, and Doctor Strange was his major domo, second in command. Molecule Man was trapped beneath the earth, and Doom and his castle was built in Yggdrasil, the World Tree, and he was married to Sue Storm and had his kids. So that's what happened. Obviously, when the heroes and the villains from the other two universes, they are also collected and sent to Battle World or appear in Battle World, they all have their memories, unlike everyone else. So, they put a stop to Doom's doings and reset everything, and everything's back to normal, except, hey, those Ultimate characters, mainly Miles, that you liked from the main universe, they're in the mainstream universe instead of the Ultimate Universe now, or something. But yeah, that's Secret Wars. That's what happened in the comics. That's what it's sort of leading to. But what I think is going to happen is, I don't know if it's going to be Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom would have to be introduced, probably not in Fantastic Four 1, because he's been in every other Fantastic Four movie. I feel like they'll go with a smaller character, the Dragon Guy, Dragon Man, Mole Man, someone else, Super Skrull maybe. They'll go with them first, and then they'll introduce Doom down along the lines, maybe 5-10 years from now, or however long until they do Secret Wars, because it might be even shorter than that, because in the first 10 years, or first 10 years until Infinity War and Endgame, they were only doing maybe 2 to at most 3 Marvel films a year, and that wasn't until Avengers came out. No, they did 2. Yeah, that's more or less right. They only did 2 in 2010 with Iron Man and... No, wait. They did 2 in 2011 with Thor and Captain America, I think. And I guess 2008 with Iron Man and Hulk, but that doesn't matter. But they didn't do more than one film a year until after Avengers, and now they're doing like 2 to 3 films a year on top of all these TV shows that they're adding on to it. So it's an express lane to their next big event. So who knows when it'll actually happen, but I can see it either being Doctor Doom, takes over with Doctor Strange. I don't know how. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to reveal my ideas. My theories. My dog's snoring again. My first theory is, if it is Doctor Doom, I'll do it this way. My overarching theory is that Earth 838 is going to return, and it's going to take the place of the Ultimate Universe. So instead of 616 and 1610, it's going to be 616 and 838, because 838, it has more comic aspects. It has more out there aspects that it can, take and put into the MCU. Whereas in the comics, 616 was more traditional, and 1610 was essentially the blueprints for the MCU. So I think it's going to return, especially based on the conversation that Christine and Steven have before they return to their respective Earths. That scene is also hilarious. Because Christine comes from this utopia that has just waterfalls coming off the Chrysler building, and everybody has great health care and shit, and they all get to wear these cool matching black outfits, and she works in multiversal research, and there's lush forest growing over the cities, and everybody lives concurrently with nature. And Steven's like, "Oh, I wish you could see my Earth. It's beautiful." But I think they could come back and be the Earth that crashes, or that is going to have an incursion with the main universe. They could even have Christine come back and be one of the people in an arc, and she's one of the people that remembers Earth 838 Christine, and she sees Steven as this right-hand man to the evil Doctor Doom. Maybe Doctor Doom is from the alternate universe. I don't know. And she's like, "Oh my God, Steven, I thought you were good," something like that. So I really hope that they come back. That's my theory, is that Earth 838 is going to come back for the final incursion before the MCU Secret Wars happens, and they do a soft reboot of the universe. My other idea, if they don't do Doom, is that the incursions are specific. God damn it. The incursions are said to be because of multiversal travel and people being in universes that shouldn't be there and having, big changes occur while they're there. Who does that sound like that we know is coming up? Kang. We already know that the multiverse experienced a giant war between universes, between the Kangs. The one above all, is that what he was called? Explains that in Loki. Before, he was the ultimate winner of the ultimate showdown, and he stood in a blood-stained sweater above everybody else. And he created the TVA to make sure that no timelines where any other Kangs could possibly be born occurred. But with him gone, and the Kangs are coming out to play. So, what if this is all leading up to a second multiversal war? We know Kang is going to be in Quantumania, Loki Season 2, probably other various projects. He'll show up in some form or fashion. So what if Kang takes Doctor Doom's place? Because Kang is obviously going to have more I guess, credence, more setup than Doctor Doom will, because Fantastic Four won't come out until at least 2024. I would assume that they're doing 2024 just so they can, probably release it in April, so it'd be 444 or something along those lines. Or maybe... Never mind. I was... what date could they put to add to the number 4? But that, I don't know. I don't feel like figuring that out. So I feel like, if anything, if they're doing Secret Wars, which it seems like they're building up to, I think Kang could be the Emperor of Battleworld. in some form or fashion. I don't know how it would work. Clearly, he wouldn't be doing it sort of for the benevolence of it, probably. He'd probably just be doing it for a selfish, I want to rule reason. Which, is also what Doom did, but, it's a little better. Maybe Doctor Strange is also there and part of it. But yeah, I think this is the ending of my discussion, but I think that Kang probably will be behind the Secret Wars event in the films. And yeah, so that's all I have to say about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I absolutely loved it, as you can tell from my long discussions of it. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like this video, whatever else. Give me a good rating on Spotify if you can, if you're listening to it on there. Or, hey, go listen to it and then give me a rating on there. Go to listen to an older episode. Something I look forward to is, in a couple of years, getting comments about how incorrect I was on this video. So I can't wait for that to happen. As always, Destructo Boy, the Era of Alpha Cardinal, Part 1 of 2 is on sale. Etsy.com/shop/Blake T. Wild. Get yours while you still can, and I'll draw Kang for you. I'll draw you a little Kang if you want. Or Krang if you're into TMNT. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Comic Schtick Podcast. Join me next week. I've been putting it off for so long, but I feel like next week is finally going to be the week that I talk about Ann Nocenti's Daredevil. And I haven't talked about it in a while, so it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a lot of stuff to discuss. There's Ultron, there's Inhumans, he goes to hell, he gets his amnesia. It's crazy. I can't wait to talk about it. I also got Jurassic League #1. I might be getting some more comics this week. I'm not sure. So I'll be trying to, talk about some more recent stuff. And who knows what news there will be by this time next week. So, again, let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know any of your thoughts on any of the topics I discussed. And what are your theories for the future of the MCU? I'll see you next time. Bye.